Welcome back to Conversations on Deck and happy 250th anniversary or happy birthday to the United States of America. That means you too. So we're going to look at a couple of things that kind of jogged my memory of 1976 when I was a kid. But let's first highlight this 2008 Topps Update President First Couples card featuring John and Abigail Adams. Now, I didn't have the card with George and Martha Washington, so why not the second president? And actually, I used to teach history. Second president, John Adams, loved reading about him, loved reading about his wife, Abigail Adams. They were definitely patriots. They definitely were independent thinkers, and they loved each other so much. And so I'd encourage you to go read some of their letters that they wrote back and forth to each other. They were married on October 25th, 1764. John Adams, he served two terms as Washington's vice president. Then he got his chance to serve as second president of the United States from 1797 to 1801. Brilliant guy. He was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. He was actually one of the authors as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. And they had a son, John Quincy Adams, who happened to be the sixth president of the United States. So from 1825 to 1829, John Quincy Adams, he also was a Secretary of State. He was a member of Congress. He was a U.S. Senator. I mean, the list goes on. Very smart, very accomplished family. Now, you see in the background that Declaration of Independence, kind of pewter-ish type of plate. It's actually from 1973. It was called the Sexton Great Moments in American History, and these were molded cast pewter plates, which were kind of had a mix of tin and copper and antimony to give it kind of a hard, heavy feature to it. And they came out with all sorts of different plates. They had things like the Boston Tea Party, they had George Washington, they had Valley Forge. The list goes on. But I figured since it's 1776 Declaration of Independence, let's highlight that today. I remember as a kid, these hung up on the wall on our outdoor patio. And somehow they came all the way from New York to Alaska. So we look at this story. This is, the Committee of Five. These were the five guys: Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston. You don't hear about them a lot, but they were commissioned to draft the Declaration of Independence. So they started on it June 11th. They finished it June 28th. And then it was agreed upon in principle on July 2nd, 1776, and then it was adopted July 4th, later signed August 2nd of 1776. But we do celebrate July 4th, talking about it, and here's a letter that John Adams wrote to his wife, Abigail, on July 3rd, 1776, and here's a quote from it. "Yesterday, the greatest question was decided which ever was debated in America, and a greater perhaps never was nor will be decided among men. A resolution was passed without one dissenting colony, that these United States are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states." Man, imagine that. Imagine being Abigail Adams and reading that in a letter. That is so cool. So cool. So we know these five guys kind of collaborated, but you always have to have a leader. And the Continental Congress actually wanted John Adams to be the leader. But John Adams, he was a smart guy, really smart guy. But he also was a guy who understood the room. And so he said, hey, I think it should be Thomas Jefferson. And here's what he said about that. Reason first. You are a Virginian, and a Virginian ought to appear at the head of this business. Reason second, I'm obnoxious, suspected, and unpopular. You're very much otherwise. Reason third, you can write 10 times better than I can. End quote. Wow, John Adams just put it out there and unabashedly said, hey, I'm obnoxious And he also said, hey, TJ, you are 10 times better the writer. And I think that's a great, great quality to have in a person. And now let's look at some of these coins here. These are really cool. I remember in 1976 seeing these minted coins, and they were, commemorating the bicentennial, 200th birthday of America. And here you get to see the classic George Washington, okay, and then on the obverse you see the drummer, and then you see that nice cool torch, and you see those 13 stars symbolizing the American colonies. Now you might wonder, okay, Chris, what is all this writing on here? My dad was a coin collector, and he used to do this kind of stuff. He would write down some description, but he would also tell you who gave him the coin. So on this coin, I wrote on there my name, and it was from JMEG. That's Joseph G&A. My dad's middle initials M.E. So this is how I remember when I pass these down to my kids someday that came from their grandfather. And then we have the classic Kennedy half dollar. You could see the 1776, 1976 right there. And then on the back, oh my goodness, is that awesome or what? You see Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and that's kind of where all the good stuff happened in the summer where it was sweltering heat. And then we've got the $1 with the great Dwight D. Eisenhower on that side. And then on the obverse, we have, look at that, the Liberty Bell. And it's kind of punched up right next to the moon, symbolizing, the Apollo 11 mission from July 20th, 1969, where we landed on the moon. So a ton of history in these coins, and again, it's not like they don't have a lot of silver content or anything like that, but it's the memory of these coins. Then I got one more I wanted to show you, okay? This coin here, this is, I'll show you the back too before I talk about it. Okay, this is a 1976 George Washington American Revolution Bicentennial Commemorative Medal from the state of Washington. You saw Washington on there. Then you also saw, the scroll on the other side. This was a gift from my father-in-law, Ed, who is he's an awesome father-in-law, probably the best. And he's very, very patriotic, very sentimental, and he gave that to me, so that is much, much appreciated. All right, I'm going to try to round out this video to get it under 10 minutes and just give you a couple of memories and a charge for you. 1976, I was 6 years old. I grew up in a small village called Scotia in upstate New York. I remember, man, as a 6-year-old, flags everywhere, red, white, and blue everywhere. Parade down the Mohawk Avenue, where you saw the police department, fire department, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, everything, all our vets and things like that. I remember downtown the Mohawk River, boats coming down, up and down the river, getting ice cream at the local Jumping Jacks, which was just a place where hot dogs, hamburgers, it's a summer place to be, for sure. And then in the evening, fireworks at Collins Park. Loved going to Collins Park, take swim lessons, just be at the park. But the fireworks were phenomenal. And I talked to one of my older brothers, my brother Peter. He's 13 years older than me. He's a Yankees fan. I'll forgive him for that. And he had told me he witnessed a tug-of-war across the Mohawk River between the town of Rotterdam and the village of Scotia. And on the Mohawk River, there's a lot of different little islands and things like that. He did say that Rotterdam won, but there was some shenanigans that kind of went on during that tug-of-war. So my last question is, it's 4th of July. It's the 250th anniversary of our great nation. What are you going to do going forward as we look upon the horizon? What are you going to do? How are you going to contribute to the greatness of our country that you know of? And now going forward, what are you going to do? Have a great day, folks. Happy 4th of July.